But I don't like that.
I know.
I'm just telling you. Okay. Sheriff, if you would like to come forward, please, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, appreciate you allowing me to say this real quick. Just wanted to say that Sunday morning, about 2 a.m., we had a tragedy in Henry County. We lost a son of Henry County out of LaBelle. Florida wildlife officer Julian King was tragically shot and killed. It appeared that he was trying to stop someone that had committed a hit and run, and for no apparent reason was shot on the side of Nobles Road, and he died from his wounds. I've known Julian since he was a very young man, watched him grow up. He was a well-mannered man. I know he was very close with Commissioner Wills and his family. They practically raised him as well. He was just as your son said, Commissioner Wills, he was a ray of sunshine, a bright bulb in a dark world. And this has hit our entire county hard. And I just wanted to let everyone know that he was loved and he will be missed. So, Commissioner?
We'll take a moment of silence for Julian. Thank you, everyone.
Also like to say tomorrow night there will be a vigil for him at Barron Park and LaBelle at 8 o'clock. And if you all can just pray for his family and his friends and the law enforcement community, his brothers and sisters. Thank you.
We're going to do things just a tad bit different tonight. We got Dr. Pepe on the line. We're going to start with him so he's not held up as we go through the agenda. Do we have Dr. Pepe?
Am I missing something?
We're waiting for Dr. Pepe.
Yeah, he was.
Is he unmuted, Carl?
Well, while we're waiting on Dr. Pepe, if you to join the meeting tonight, you'll need to dial the code as you have been the whole along. Phone number is 877-853-5257. Your access code will be 955-2625-7584#. For anyone in the public that's listening through computer, phone, whatever the case may be, in order to dial into the meeting, again, that number is 877-853-5257. Access code 955-2625-7584#. Do we have him yet? If not, we're going to kind of move along.
Carl, he's the 941 number.
Dr. Pepe, are you on the line, sir?
Must not be.
All right, we'll come back to him.
Okay.
First thing on the agenda tonight is bids,
I moved,
RFQ 2020-19.
I moved to accept.
I'm seconding.
Got a motion by Commissioner Harris, second by Commissioner Byrd. Is there anyone on the phone that would like to address this before we move forward?
I just want to point out, Mr. Chair, it was very hard for me not to go with the second-ranked firm on this one. I'm gonna lean on the county engineer here to say that, you know, this is what he does on his day work, but I really do like seeing work that's in our backyard being performed by our people, and so there's no reason why they couldn't have, but we'll move down the road on this one.
Okay.
Do we know the AVCON?
I've never worked with them before. They had good references, and the request for qualifications for CEI services was based on aviation.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
This next agenda item is a public hearing for adoption. The petition number RZ 20-0004, request for a rezone from rural residential to heavy industrial.
Once again, this is the J&J Ag product.
Yes, sir.
parcel. Yeah.
Right.
So somewhat familiar with this project, but if anybody knows J&J Ag, they know it's going to be a first-class operation from A to Z. So I would make a motion to approve, conduct a public hearing and approve the rezoning to heavy industrial and adopt the attached ordinance.
I'll second the motion with a question.
Motion by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Swindle.
I'm dying to hear his question because I got one too.
Okay. You want to go?
Go ahead first.
All right. In the first sentence, and not an issue with the situation at all, just a quick question, Ms. Emmons. Why are we requiring heavy industrial for an office?
What they're rezoning, well, first of all, let me back up. The property was redesignated to industrial future land use at some point in time that we weren't able to determine. We don't have any papers on that. So rezoning this from RR to industrial brings it in consistent with the future land use category.
Why don't they sue us, Ms. Emblidge? If we can't tell them when that happened and we're demanding them to do that, obviously they have a cost associated with doing that. I've been alive for 43 years. I think that property's been doing what it does. By the way, please don't take this as being argumentative or aggravating or anything like that. I'm confused on how, because that was my exact question, Commissioner
Right.
Swindle, is when we go from RR to heavy industrial, it just seems like we're creating a little bit of a burden, so to speak, and we're definitely running up the cost for that operator.
Right. Well, I agree that it's an unfortunate situation that for some reason it was designated as industrial and was never rezoned as industrial subsequent to that. But I don't know if it was privately redesignated to future industrial land use category. And if it was, then they would have had to take the next step to rezone it to be consistent with the redesignation. But I apologize, I don't have the answers to how and when it happened. But
So the basic answer to my question is you're just staying in step with the current zoning that's there.
the current land use category.
Land use category, okay. I understand.
And because the property is not just for the office building, it's for the remainder or partial of the property that is used for some of their ag production.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Believe me, we tried to find any which way we can to work with any of the applicants to figure out the easiest and least cost route, and I hear what you're saying. I'll even go so far as go out on a limb here as to mention that in a previous job that I had with a different county, we literally, for some properties that had this inconsistency, the county initiated rezonings on the properties, of course, having the property owner in agreement with it, but we would go ahead and process that. Now, I'm not suggesting we do that, but I'm just saying that is something to think about in the future, and you know, it would, in some instances where I've seen these inconsistencies, it would be it may be something that the county would consider, and you can think about it, and if it comes up again, we can come to you and ask you if you want the county to initiate the petition as opposed to the private property owner. But I would suggest that we have to make sure that this wasn't something caused by the property owner or the previous owner, because we shouldn't be doing, you know, the private property owner's work for them per se. If it was literally a mistake that was made that so long ago that we don't have record of it, or that it was not the doing of the property owner, that might be something you would consider.
I would also just add, Mr. Chair, I would love to know, Ms. Emblidge, if you're hearing from entities that are out there that are going through this process, if you're hearing a consistent complaint, or you're hearing something that they feel is just onerous as it relates to evolving into whatever their rezone or whatever upgrade or add-on, whatever they're doing from a standpoint of taking their business model and expanding or retaining, which is the number one and number two forms of economic development in the county. I'd love to know, what are they saying and what are you hearing routinely is something that's holding us up from doing that and making it more efficient or streamlined. I know we're going to hear later from an entity that's moving up onto the State Road 29 property, and that's really exciting. That's something that doesn't happen a lot in Hendry County, and I'm sure that's going to be a 5-0 vote of support. But I go back to use the Atio facility, just down the road from J&J. That whole area in there, to me, I kind of view that as industrial, commercial. It's working with a couple neighborhoods smattered throughout it. And if a business is looking to expand, I've never heard once a commissioner in Hendry County run on a platform of, I want to make things more conducive to economic development, and I want to make sure that we're actually saying that from a trying to get our butt in the seat standpoint, and then we're creating policies and we're working with you all to make sure that's actually happening. So,
Well, here's what we've done in the last few years. We've lowered the fees for the applications. We also, compared to other jurisdictions, I'm not going to include Glades County or a couple of the other more rural counties, but the surrounding counties, the time frame for anybody, an applicant, to go through these processes is at least twice as much, if not 3 times as much time frame, and with a lot more scrutiny than what we've been doing. And I do appreciate you all relying on staff with our recommendations and supporting our recommendations. But the best that we can do is the fees and the timeframes to get them through the process, and to handhold. There's many of these applications, whether it's a large property owner or even a small property owner. We handhold these petitioners to help them through the process, because either they don't hire a professional or they're not necessarily familiar with the process. But that's what we have at this point.
And it wasn't always that way.
That's what I understand, sir.
It was not always that way.
It's all because of Shane.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Engineer.
All right, before we start picking on the tiger. Is there any public comment on this? This is a public hearing. You have, yes, sir, if you would come to the podium, please, sir, and state your name, sir.
My name is Edson Atalla. I've been living in Clewiston since 1993. I own the property next door to J&J Farm, 1955 Davidson Road. I've been with the special...
Mr. Todd, is that the convenience store?
The convenience store.
Got you.
Yes. I purchased that property from Weekly Brothers, which is, he have asphalt plant in this, which is considered a heavy industrial. When I tried to put my gas station, I thought it's a simple action, a simple matter, just apply and you will be approved. I did my plans, I purchased the property. When I tried to get the permits, it took me over 4 years, being declined by the board commission, the Hendry County Building and Zoning, and they give me a such hard time. It cost me 4 lawyers, $95,000. Lawyer's fee, engineer's fee, expert in the area, which has cost me a delay from 2003 all the way to 2008. The project actually was costing me $1.3 million. I finished and paid $1,850. And also, even J&J Farm, I'm not against nobody, but somebody been operating. Since I moved there, it's a J&J Farm, heavy industrial. He have a mechanical shop. He have all kind of equipment. He have double wide offices there. He have a tank, a fuel tank. I don't know who been giving him the right and the license, and who is the law enforcement to go do inspection, and they been operating in a residential area as industrial. I don't know why it's the law to be applicable to me, not to everybody. We should be equal right from everybody. So everybody else around me, J&J Shamrock, Bob Dean, Quality Electric, the manufacturing, clothing manufacturing, the Calusa. Everybody took the action and just apply and it being approved. But for me, it took me 5 years and cost me over $100,000 lawyer fee plus 5 years of lost of income plus $550,000 extra cost because of when I start building, it was the high cost and it switched from 1.3 to 1.850. So I have also, he crossing my property from point to point, from 835 all to his property. He have a water line. It's still my private property. It needs to be removed. I've been asking them. I did a commitment to the building and zoning. Always I took it verbal. But today I bring all my comments in writing. I'm going to hand it to each commissioner, if you would. The points which I mentioned are being treated unfair from Henry County and everybody else being treated just, he been operating for 28 years as a heavy industrial. Nobody even, he have the license, he have the operation, he have over 400 trailer and trucks and everything parking there. For me, just for one trailer, the board, the Henry County Commissioner Officer, he came and they sent me to a court just for one trailer. I'm parking a trailer in a heavy industrial as a storage unit. So why me? Why only me? We are equal rights. I need this to go deeply with every single one, to be treated as I've been treated. If the law enforcement against me, against everybody, if the rules applies to me, it should be applied to everybody. Can I handle?
Yes, sir.
to
If you would,
everyone?
bring them.
Mr. Chair, yeah, I think it'd be pertinent. Sir, if you'd like to give them to all the commission, obviously we'll take them, but we definitely want staff to get that, the county administrator as well. I just want to point out too, I remember this vividly. I was working at Florida Atlantic University, then left FAU, went to work for Quality Electric, and was working in St. Pete, and I was dumbfounded reading about this because all I recall was you were trying to put in a convenience store. And I remember thinking, I didn't understand how it was legal to have a convenience store across the street and then know what that property was when I used to ride my bike around it, and then you were just going to get rid of some of that, excavate some dirt, and then put another convenience store. And it was actually something that actually inspired me. It was, sorry for being redundant, it was something that actually inspired me to run for office, was the rigmarole that I heard you had to be run through, and the fact that you had to lawyer up to get that gas station. I was confused.
4 lawyers. I have to change 4 lawyers.
Yeah.
I went from a lawyer, from Nicky Pierce. He resigned because it's a conflict of interest with his family. His daughter, his sister married to J&J Farm son, so she his son-in-law. Then I get another lawyer. Well, the commissioner, board commissioner declined my project, and then I had to hire a lawyer from Palm Beach. It cost me $58,000. And with a firm of engineer who is specialized in the rezoning, and I had to hire a company which is their specialist. So again, 5 years ago, again I went to my office and I took an engineer and a company interested to do a parking, $2,400 lease for 15 years. I've been declined again. It's no zoning for that one. So what I should do every time I go, it's 4 or 5 years. So I give up or I move somewhere else. But my 5 kids born and raised in Clewiston. I will have nowhere to go. For 28 years I've been serving the community. I don't have a record. I've never been treated nobody unfair, and I don't think it's fairly treated by Henry County commissioners and the building and zoning. Should be somebody review who be responsible for all that violation in J&J Farm. And I asked the commissioner to remove the water line from my property because it's private property. He had to run it through the public road or straight to his facility. He came himself, argument, every board commission, he come with all his relatives, all his people against my project. I'm not against him today because he went there, but yeah, I see it's unfairly, just rezoning a residential area being operating over 28 years. As a residential area is heavy industrial. He have mechanics, he have a fuel tank, 8,000 gallons, he have double wide offices there, over 16 people operating there. He have over 300 tractors and trucks and trailers there. So why me? Why just me?
Give us time for the administrator to look at this, and we'll definitely get a response to you. I'm kind of caught. I really don't know the whole situation, so.
It's amazing how it dovetails into exactly what I was saying earlier,
Right.
where, you know, it is a precarious situation out there in Hooker's Point, and I bet, sir, that you have some legitimate things that you're frustrated with, but I don't want to sound like the consummate politician talking out of both sides of my mouth here, but understand this. As it relates to people that are gainfully employing humans that live in Hendry County, I'm going to do everything in my power to support them and make sure they're operating within the rules. I think you're saying the same thing. You just want fair and equitable treatment.
For everybody.
I'm looking forward to delving into this a lot. And I'll just tell you, I mean, it's weird. When you go down Red Road and all that stuff, you know, you'll have, you know, John Road, you have house, and then you got Will Rudd's business. You know what I mean? And you got Mr. Richmond's business. And then you got an old storage unit that just turned into ENR, and then you got a house, you know. So you got one guy that runs the roofing for less. He lives in his house, and he's got, you know, a commercial out the back. So I guarantee you, we drilled into it. We got some inconsistencies out there. And then if you go a little bit further down from Quality Electric, you know, we have some serious industry that's moving in, but south of the old Everking facility there. So you're bringing up some very valid points, and I think that we'll delve into this, Mr. Chair. So thank you.
Just allow us a little time to, you'll definitely get a response, sir.
And I would like this document supposed to be, if it be registered in the clerk as a.
Matter of the record.
Yes.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good one.
Thank you, sir.
Any further comments on this from the public? Anyone on the phone? Any further discussion on the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Yes, Commissioners, this next agenda item is a comprehensive plan map amendment. It's a small-scale amendment, map amendment, because it's less than 20 acres. So the process for reviewing and approving this application is such that it doesn't go to the state before you adopt it. This is literally would be an adoption hearing for this map amendment going from commercial to industrial. And as you see in the staff report, this is custom stainless steel. They're moving from Miami to LaBelle, or to Hendry County, excuse me. And a companion to this comprehensive plan amendment is rezoned to plan development so that we limited the uses to ensure compatibility with the surrounding properties that included both, a combination of agricultural, residential, commercial, and even heavy commercial. Staff is recommending that the board adopt this comprehensive plan map amendment.
I move to accept.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Commissioner Harris, second by Commissioner Swindle. This is also a hearing of the public. Does anyone in the public would like to speak to this? Anyone on the phone that would like to speak to this? Any further discussion on the board?
This is right down the road from me, and it's going to bring employment to the facility, and I'm glad it's coming in. I think it'll be an asset to Henry County.
This is awesome.
Yes, it is.
This is new for us. This is great.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. As I mentioned, this next agenda item is the rezoning petition for the same property you just adopted. This is a rezone from general commercial, C2, to planned unit development. And just to clarify here, in the staff report, the list of uses that are under the analysis got a little jumbled up. So but it is correct in the proposed resolution as it's listed out in the resolution. And staff has recommended that the board approve this rezoning with the proposed conditions in the attached ordinance.
Move to accept.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Harris.
Yes, sir.
Second by Commissioner Turner.
And just one clarification, did you want to clarify the uses are kind of jumbled there in the staff report?
That's what I just said.
Okay.
Mark's not paying attention.
This is also a hearing of the public. Anyone in the public like to address this? Anyone on the phone?
Yeah.
Further discussion on the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I would just ask staff to work with the applicant and implore them that in the city of Oaks, if there's any that could be preserved as they start development over there, as much as they could, please, we would greatly appreciate that.
Okay.
You know, I still lie awake at night knowing if we'd have got in front of that cleaning on Highway 80, if we'd have just had a conversation with the FDOT, we could have saved a massive amount of bandwidth right there with regards to oak trees that are older than all of us combined. Sad.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Emily.
Did we ever get Dr. Pepe?
He should be on the line now.
Is he with us? Dr. Pepe, you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
The word of God.
Good afternoon, good evening. I wanted to just give you a quick update and kind of share with you what we're seeing and trends and some strategies that we're putting into place. Right now, we're at 659 cases in Hendry County, and we unfortunately have 21 deaths as a result of COVID-19. Significant percentage of the deaths are folks that are over the age of 65, although our population with the highest number of COVID positivity is the age group between 25 and 34-year-olds, next to 35 to 44-year-olds. There's 156 in one category and 131 in another. As you know, we've had a significant impact to our nursing homes as well as some close working environments in agricultural settings. And so we have been focusing very much on those areas in order to get our arms around that. The good news is that we think that we have been able to contain the agricultural piece. One of the things that has helped significantly is that the workers have all since cleared and have gone back to their home country or elsewhere. So we feel that that is contained, at least for now. As a component of that, we've also pushed out 37,000 additional masks over the last week and a half. Each of you should have received a case for your constituency, and there's more if you need them. And so we continue to reach out to all of the elected officials, the constitutionals, and any other community partner that we have in order to distribute these masks widely. We've placed an additional order for an additional, I believe, 44,000 masks, and that's to position us and align us for tropical season in the event that we have to go to shelter operations, school reopening, and replacement of lost or damaged masks. So we're hoping the strategy with the mask deployment is to reduce the overall presence of virus in the community. What we're seeing right now is in the past we were seeing sporadic transmission of cases and household clusters. We've now moved into more of a community transmission as far as with several households with multiple residents at each home impacted. We have some homes with 5, 6, 7, 8 people living in a household, and COVID is working its way through those homes due to the living arrangements. We have since completed our testing of a new type of test, which we're really excited about. We've done about 81 of those tests in order to validate and confirm them against our existing tests. So those individuals were actually tested twice. And we compared the results, and the results were very good as far as specificity and sensitivity for COVID-19. So I am following up with the state to see how we can move forward with procuring more of these tests. And what these tests would enable us to do is move to a self-test model where any individual would be given a padded envelope mailer that has the swab inside and the container, and they'd be able to swab themselves, not like what you see in the doctor's office or the testing lines. It's a much less invasive swab. And then put it in the container, postage is paid, And then there's a portal in which they can go to or phone number they can call to get their test results typically within 72 hours. And this lab is a very well-known large lab that has the capacity to serve. So we're hoping that this will be a game changer for us. Some of the other strategy as part of reopening as well is we have since partnered with Fire EMS so that they are assisting us with testing at their stations for government employees. And so we're able to offload some of the lines in order to allow for more capacity for our community to be tested. And then we're also continuing with testing at all of our community partners as well. So we've really been pushing a lot of testing in the community to gain a better understanding of where COVID is hiding. What we have seen is that over the last 10 days, we are averaging somewhere around 10 to 11 new cases a day. That is less than where we were the 10-day period prior to that. We continue to watch this because we have seen some spikes based on outbreaks. But we are hoping that this trend will continue. When we look at the cases by zip code, some of our challenges that we really look at is when we compare Hendry County and we look at the surrounding zip codes. When we look at Belglade, they are right now somewhere around 502 cases just for that zip code. And when we look at Immokalee, they're at 1,151 cases. So we are surrounded basically on multiple sides with a fairly significant outbreak, and that is a challenge that we have as far as with transmission back and forth between communities. So we're working very closely. I've had a meeting with all of the health officers, and we had a meeting with several private medical organizations, including Doctors Without Borders, to see how we can partner to provide not only enhanced care, but surveillance and treatment and education to kind of break that transmission and cycle and importation into our communities. We continue to work with our partners to develop more testing modalities like rapid testing and antibody testing and things like that. And that's still going to be coming online so we can get a better understanding of how early did COVID come into our community, what type of immunity are we seeing in our community. And then as we plan for the transition for reopening, we are now moving towards, rather than a health department or a single entity doing large-scale testing, we are enabling our partners to do more and more testing and raising the tide for testing so that we can move with nursing teams or provider teams that can go into targeted areas to do specific testing for different groups, organizations, things like that, in order to make sure that we're responding quickly and accurately to any outbreaks. And this will also position us for when we get ready in the event that a vaccine is developed and we move to a mass vaccination strategy. There's been lots of conversation about treatment. There's you saw yesterday that the emergency use authorization for chloroquine has been revoked by the Food and Drug Administration. The testing in the scientific community felt that there wasn't a significant difference or impact in chloroquine's effectiveness on COVID and mortality rates. One of the things that they are looking very much at is the drug I mentioned earlier, remdesivir, which is an antiviral that's been fairly successful in early studies, and other types of medications called IL-6 inhibitors, which are medications that help impact the inflammation response and the immune system response to COVID. As I mentioned earlier, COVID doesn't necessarily manifest itself in pneumonia, and we've seen situations where really interesting symptoms such as loss of smell, taste, things like that. And we believe that that has an impact on the way COVID is attaching itself to certain receptors within the body, attacking those systems, those organ systems. So the scientific community, the medical community is getting much better at understanding how to respond to COVID, and we're working very hard to help drive down the mortality rate and help improve outcomes for COVID. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Dr. Pepe? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you said that we're at 651 diagnosed cases in Hendry County. You also said that obviously there are some that have been cured, there are some that have left the area. Is there a way of knowing an active number of cases in Hendry County?
Sure, that's a great question. So we're at 659, And right now, we're estimating somewhere around 366 that no longer require isolation. And that's an estimation based on CDC guidance for recovery and isolation, based on some of the contact tracing that we're doing and other data. So we're estimating somewhere around 293 to 300 active cases right now in our community.
Does that take into account the ones that have left the area? Like you said, to go back to their home country or
Yes, sir.
gone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
So how many active do we have?
I can do the math.
We're estimating somewhere around 300 active cases right now.
300.
I think we,
That's misleading.
Yeah.
That's 659. We should come out and say 300.
no, I don't think so at all. I don't think so at all.
Well, that's how many we got.
No, it's not.
363 released.
No, guys,
Yeah, you got 300 that's recovered.
you know what? The United States Navy had a boat captain that got released because he wouldn't say certain numbers were recovered. He got reinstated because the CDC is, does the CDC give a recovered number, Dr. Pepe?
No, sir.
No, but
the
Hendry
World
County
Health
does.
Organization
So
has
we're
estimates,
giving
but no.
a Hendry County recovered number, and that's the number that we want to, that's the number that we want to push out the door, because we only have 350-something cases?
No,
I
it should-
I think it's accurate to say
I don't
we
think it's
had-
accurate at all.
Well, no, I'm sorry, let me finish, please.
Okay.
I think that accurate thing to say was we've had a total of 659 diagnosed cases, but we currently have 300 or so active cases in the county. What is wrong with that message?
Nothing.
I'll tell you what's wrong with that message. There's no science that says it's inactive after 30 days, or it's inactive after 45 days, or it's inactive after 15 days. Dr. Pepe, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, sir.
March 17th through, let's say, the end of March, we predicted that the height of the curve would be early May. Fair statement?
Yes, sir.
Yep. When's the height of the curve now?
It continues to push out as we reduce the amount of controls that are in place.
It continues to push out as more people become infected. Is that another way of saying it?
Yeah, so as we remove restrictions, that peak continues to push out. There's been some conversation about as mobility increases, so does the propensity for additional cases. Right now, we're relatively stable with a slight increase, but there's some projections that talk sometime in September as we approach to full mobility like we have prior to COVID outbreak, that there could be a potential increase again.
And guys, call it fear-mongering, call it trying to scare the bejesus out of people, call it whatever you need to call it, say I'm a negative Nelson. But the point I'm making here is that, I think in the next 2 to 5 days, we're going to see another spike that happens statewide, because we're seeing a tremendous amount of rallies. We're seeing people that aren't being vigilant as it relates to protecting themselves. I think you're going to see more spikes throughout the country. I don't think we're out of the woodwork here, but I'm trying to stay positive. I'm not pushing for us to do any kind of closures or anything like that. But I think Governor DeSantis has done a masterful job of saying, local governments, handle it how you want to handle it. We're going to stay out of the way, and we're going to try to give you resources to let you handle it. But to say that we're out of the fears or out of the protection or in an area right now where we don't need to really stay hyper vigilant as it relates to COVID, I think that guys, we're 40,000 people. We have 21 deaths. There's counties out there that I think Martin County has 18 deaths, and they're at 161,000 people. I don't know what Palm Beach County is, but if you run it out to a per capita, and then if you really back into the volume of people that we've actually tested and the volume of people that are actually positive in our county, and I'm not using a recovery rate, I'm saying the actual people that have tested positive, our percentage is 4 or 5 points higher than counties of our size, counties in the state. We have a larger percent of positive people than I think most counties in the state of Florida. I don't know what that anomaly is related to, but I just think that we've got to continue to do what we're doing. I know it's uncomfortable for everybody. The couple that came up from Miami-Dade, I don't know if y'all noticed, they came in, they had on masks. If you're in Dade, Broward, Palm Beach right now, everybody's wearing a mask. You go into Monroe County, you still can't go in, without having a mask. I just think we still have got to be careful on this thing. And I don't want to tell our population that we only have 300 people or 369 people that have COVID actively, and we need to let our guard down. I think that we as leaders of the community need to be more mindful and say, guys, it's still an unknown group of variables out there, and we need to be vigilant as it relates to this thing. If y'all disagree, let's have the discussion.
No, before you go, hang on,
Commissioner?
Dr. Pepe. No one's saying let your guard down. We're just saying people's recovering from this.
You can't say that, Commissioner Wills.
How can we not say that? They got
Because the
360
CDC doesn't even know what recovered means right now. This is something that we've never dealt with in the history of our country. So science is saying we don't know right now if you get it 15 days from now, and then you test positive. There is nothing that says you can't get COVID again X number of days. It's looking like it is more towards
I
that.
get that. The only thing I'm saying is, honestly, I probably had that in February,
Yes, sir.
more than likely.
That's what-
I've been all over it since then, and I haven't got it back. I'm not saying I won't. I can maybe walk out of here and fall dead at the door. If that's what it's going to be, it's going to be. But I will not walk in fear every day because someone is telling me you're going to get a virus and die. I'm not going to do that.
I'm
I'm
not
not going to tell
walking in
everyone
fear
else to do that. I'm going to tell them we have 659 total cases.
Okay,
That's what we have.
okay.
And when they say, so how many is active? Well, we have 296 active, 300 active. They can do the math themselves, brother. I mean, here's the deal. We don't have the numbers that other people have because our people aren't going to get tested. They're just not. They don't have the symptoms. They're not wasting their time to go get tested. Lee County, the first day it opened that line, you couldn't get in it for hours and hours and hours. Our people aren't doing that. They made it available in every one of our outer areas, and they're just not going, Commissioner, unless they have symptoms. So that makes our numbers look that bad. That's just my opinion. I'm not a doctor. I don't even play one on TV. But I just think that we got to keep in perspective. The fact is, we are a smaller town. We are a smaller county. We do have to keep our guard up. I agree with that 100%. But I just don't think we need to tell them, hey, if you go to the store and you forget your mask, you're going to die.
I've never once said, if you go
Okay.
to the store and you don't wear your mask, you're going to die.
I know.
What
I
I've
know.
said is, we have to be hyper vigilant as it relates to COVID, because this is a living and breathing organism that has the potential. And if you look at it from a percentage basis, and we have 21 deaths in our county, we have people that are more susceptible. If you go back through the precursors, we have a higher population of type 2 delayed onset. We have a higher percentage of infant mortality. We have a higher percentage of people without, all of these different
Yep.
parameters that work against you. We have more people that smoke on the average. We have more people that have, I can go down the list, hypertension, so on and so forth. All of those things are variables that allow for you to be more susceptible to COVID. And so, as it relates to our population, we have to, I think, give the actual message, and I don't think that we need to paint a more rosy picture than what it is. I haven't said much to the county administrator, but from day one, when I know there was a point, Dr. Pepe, when we were celebrating the fact that Hendry County, out of 67 counties, was the only county that was utilizing a recovered number. I disagreed with it then. I think I told you and Emily that. I disagree with it now. Nobody else is doing it. The CDC is not doing it. By the way, I'm the biggest anti-government there is on the planet. I don't trust government. I want less government. I want you out of I want to be able to do what I want to do when I want to do it within the rules of the law. But when the CDC is not utilizing something, or when FDA or other entities out there, the state's not giving a recovered number, but Henry County's doing it, I just think we're giving a misleading percentage. And then one final point I would make, Commissioner Wills, Mr. Chairman, is that I think it would be actually more dim and grim if we tested a lot of people. I think that our percentage is actually a lot higher than what we realize. I do think I was an antagonist at first to the people that said, I think I had this back, earlier, but I think science is going to prove that it was here a lot earlier,
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, guys, I think that COVID still has the potential to hurt us if we're not careful, and we need to let our population know that they have to stay steadfast to physical distancing and protecting themselves as much as they can.
And I don't argue that a bit, Commissioner. I agree with it. We need to stay vigilant. I agree with that. I guess I'm just the other side. I like to see the positive. I like to see the light with the darkness, that's all. Go ahead, Dr. Pepe.
Yes, sir, and I think you're all correct, and I agree with Commissioner Turner as well, that we're not out of the woods yet. I think this is one of those things that we need to continue to monitor. Remember that as our population shifts, as people come back into our community, snowbirds, that's going to change things as well. So we really are still learning more on how the asymptomatic spread is working. So it's definitely, I think the messaging is exactly what you all are saying. You know, remain your diligence. If you're vulnerable, please take extra precaution. If you're sick, stay home. Wear a mask whenever possible, good sanitizing, social distancing, and all those things. We know that works. You could see the impact that it had on our numbers. As we open back up, it's clear to understand that we're going to see more cases. I think the key to all of this is to make sure that our community can get the medical care they need and access to the medications they need so that we don't overrun our medical system like what we saw in Italy and New York and other places. So I think you're all exactly right. You know, there's a psychological and an economic impact to this pandemic that we'll be learning about for years to come. We know that drug use and domestic violence calls have gone up as a function of the COVID isolation. So it's stressing our community immensely. And so what I would leave you guys with is wherever you think we need to be at or what we need to be doing, please let me know because you guys all know what's going on in your communities and you have people calling you each day. So we will adapt and respond to this as quickly as we can in order to make sure that we're doing everything we can to protect us and prevent the spread of COVID. Until we have a vaccine or some type of intervention, we're going to have to maintain this posture for quite some time. And I think that our faith-based community, our businesses, and our community partners are going to be really the front line in helping this. But I want to say thank you all, and if there's anything I can do, please reach out.
Thank you, Dr. Pepe.
Thank you, Dr. Pep. We appreciate all you're doing, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bring us to you, Mr. Lapp.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this is an ordinance amendment for some cleanup amendments for our local housing assistance program ordinance. It's to get us in compliance with the statute and get some practices that we're actually doing to be reflected in the ordinance as opposed to what the ordinance said. It was written 27 years ago, and this is mainly a cleanup.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
So we have SHIP, we have CDBG, we have a number of different variables. I know they're all separate silos. But as you go through some of those programs, we can only, like I know one of the things that I've struggled with is we have to be within a certain threshold of a bid. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's a 15 or 20% plus minus, and then we got to accept that. Are you following what I'm saying, Ms. Embledge?
Yes, sir.
Is that being removed in this?
No.
None of those nuances are being dealt with.
Right, so the details, that kind of detail you're talking about right there is in that resolution, the LHAP, the LHAP, that's what it's called, right? The Local Housing
Yeah.
Assistance Plan.
Yep.
That's adopted by resolution by the board about once every year or two.
Yeah, it's updated
We just
every
did it.
year.
We just did it like 2 or
Yes.
3 months ago.
We did.
So
We
that's
haven't-
where all that detail is, and that's where you establish those practices, and the ordinance really isn't a place to do all that, because ordinances are cumbersome and aren't as nimble to change.
So Mark, when I looked at this, it looked to me as if you were basically taking a bunch of language out.
Yeah.
You were streamlining it, and you were saying, we're going to make this a little bit more clear, concise, and easy to understand, no?
That's correct, and the kind of the most significant content of this is on the 5th page of the ordinance. That's section 1-8.5-25, establishment of local housing assistance plan. In that sentence, the county shall by resolution of the county commission adopt a local housing assistance plan as defined in the statute to be implemented through a local housing partnership as defined in the statute.
Yeah.
That in one sentence describes
What
your
we're-
housing program.
Okay.
And the ordinance is more streamlined, and then we do everything detailed in the resolution.
Okay. So Mr. Chair, I guess I will make a motion to approve what's been presented here. And then I'd like for us as a board to be able to visit that, Ms. Embledge. Especially we can look at where we may have missed some bids, look at the timeline associated with job performance. In the last two things that you've presented to us as a board, the timelines on projects being started and completed kind of scared me a little bit. And so, and I guarantee you probably have the same opinion without even talking to you about it. And so I'd love for us to just see a snapshot of that on a larger level, and then look if you think, from your professional standpoint, if there's some recommendations that could be made that may open that up, to more competitive bidding, pulling into that 1-2%. And I think we're going to see it naturally get more competitive anyway with this environment. So that's it, Mr. Chair.
If I may, at the last meeting, you had, Commissioner Turner, you had asked.
And I saw your response from Ms., yes, ma'am.
That we meet on, with Sabrina.
Yes, ma'am.
And you and Jennifer and I, and to go over the programs so that you could get a deeper dive, as you put it, on understanding how they all work and have a better feel for that. Now, that's what I remember you saying.
Yes,
Now,
ma'am.
did you want to bring that to more of a workshop with the board?
I don't want it to be a workshop as much as I think a 3 to 5 slide presentation to us with an agenda item with solid recommendations made from you all. You're clearly the boots on the ground, Ms. Embledge, and if you have a suggestion to us from a policy perspective that would be able to streamline it and be able to, here's at the end of the day,
Right.
be able to bring more product to the constituents of Hendry County and more refurbishment or more new homes, new single-family homes being rendered so that we have more rooftops, so that we have more ad valorem tax dollars.
And we can do that. I'll tell you, one of our limitations that we've had is the amount of money that we get each year and the amount of horsepower we have to
Push it out.
push it out. But also, if we increase the amount of money that can be gifted or that for the program, that would hopefully bring in a higher quality contractors.
Yes, ma'am.
For these projects, and that has been one of our biggest challenges as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chair, what Ms. Emmons just said, that have been a problem. There are some problems there with some of the homes, with the contractors, and she have been on top of it, but I do think that the slideshow would be wonderful, because there are some things that need to be tweeted. For instance, how long they're out their home, what the contracts say one thing and then it's another. So there is some tweeting that needs to be done with it, because some of the residents, and even going back to the past, trying to go back and redo things that was not done right before my time with some of the contracts. So I do think that it needs to be brought to the board for us to take a closer look at it so we'll get a better understanding. Because coming in, as I walk with some of the housing, it's a lot more than beneath the eye. So even with the contractor, so I would like to see the increase, Ms. Emmons, because it puts you in a spot where if you don't have the increase, you don't have a proper contractor, and it hurts us more than it helps us. So it causes us to go back and ask for more. So.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Turner has a motion on the floor. I'll second the motion.
Okay. Got a motion by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Swindle. Any comment from the public? Anyone on the phone? Any further discussion on the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Staff reports, Mr. Lapp.
Yes, as you know, we've operated under some modified board meeting procedures as a result of COVID, and your last order for that expires tomorrow, and so I just wanted to find out from you whether you wanted to carry on with any of the special processes. I know we're meeting in person now, and at the last meeting, Commissioner Swindle mentioned, and I think the rest of you agreed, you're going back to your regular meeting chambers, so that's clear. So the only parts that I wasn't really clear on is whether you're going to keep on having a phone line like we've been having or not, and whether you're going to provide any direction to the subordinate boards about where they meet, or just leave that up to them, and whether they have a phone line or leave that up to them. So
Have we had anyone from the phone line?
I don't think
besides
so.
Dr. Pepe?
I don't know. Can you tell us?
I don't mind providing it if it's a layer of, allowing our community to engage, but it's is it pretty tasky for you to do? All right, well, you can do it.
It won't hurt anything.
I'm just one person, but if the situation is causing people to feel uncomfortable coming to town and going to a meeting, but they can call in, I certainly don't mind allowing that as an opportunity for someone to participate in the meeting.
But clearly, we haven't had anybody take advantage
Well,
of
we
it
have
yet.
not. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
Well, we did say that last time too.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't mind providing it just in case. I mean, the reality is, I mean, Commissioner, you said it earlier, if someone had something coming before the board, yet they had those underlying, I'd hate to know that we made them show up in a board meeting.
Yeah.
And then physically something, if we allow the phone calls still, at least they have
Yeah,
the option to be
ability,
heard.
yes, sir.
I'd rather provide it and not use it than
Yep.
somebody not be able to.
It doesn't take but a few minutes to ask if there's anybody there to make a comment, so.
We also are doing the e-comments, just to remind everyone, we haven't had but maybe one comment, I believe it was, at the first meeting. But I think that's something that's easy enough that we will continue to do that, not unlike some other counties, regardless of this COVID, and we'll continue to do that going forward.
Say, Margaret, LPA, are they all showing up?
No, sir. We've had a couple of the LPA members that had preferred to be by phone, but we still have been able to have a quorum, and
Well,
especially,
the phone we needed the phone to meet quorum.
exactly.
Right.
Are they allowed to vote?
Yes.
Under the governor's order,
Okay.
yes, they can, and so you allowed that too, via your order. Did you want
Right.
to say anything more about that, or?
Well, I just wanted to say that we still need to have that because we do have a few of the members that,
So Ms. Emblers, not to cut you off, but are you recommending, I think, that we continue the state of emergency for just a little bit longer? Or, let me ask this question, can we not have the state of emergency and still qualify for all of our funding? If it's nothing more than just making a motion and clarifying the state of emergency to extend for another month, what does it hurt?
Okay, so a few things. We do have our local state of emergency, and that's been weekly, and Chairman's been doing that. This isn't directly related to that. The public meeting allowance isn't because of that. We needed to get an exception. The governor needed to allow us.
His executive order
His
has...
executive orders allows board members appearing and voting.
And
by phone.
that still stands?
That's in effect until June 30th. Now, he's been, it's had various expiration dates, and he's been extending it. The current expiration date is June 30th. I don't know, who knows if he's
I
going to
bet he
extend it.
extends it. Anybody want over and under out of Vegas? I bet he extends it.
So if he doesn't extend it, well, then we have no choice. We got to all meet live, and we
Okay.
got to be here, and so does everybody. You could still provide a phone for people to call in, but commissioners wouldn't be able to, and board members wouldn't be able to vote because
But that's easy. So we got you, Mark. So the gist is, June 30th, if it expires, we have to come if we want to vote.
right.
June 30th, it doesn't expire, it's extended another month, you cannot show up, call in, and still have the right to vote.
Right.
However, if June 30th, it does expire, you can still call in, it takes a supermajority, then you could vote. Is that correct?
Well,
On each
yeah.
individual item? But we'll cross that bridge if and when we have to get there. As long as we have a quorum, what we've done in years past, because I've been the main guy that's missed twice, is I've just said, if there's something I feel very passionate about, I'll either have my tail in the seat, or we can just move on down the road and I'll give you all my opinion, y'all can take it into consideration. But
Either way.
Commissioner Harris ain't gonna miss a board meeting,
No.
so.
Well, the planning council for the past 4 years now, that no one shows up no more, so it's every bit of quorum over phone, and we still vote on things.
So do we need a motion, Attorney Lance?
Well, so let me be clear about what you want to do then.
Just meetings.
I'm sorry?
I would say, my personal opinion is, allow people to call in and submit e-comments.
Comments.
And
No,
that's
I
for
don't
board
follow that either.
meetings?
Board meetings and LPA.
Okay, and then there's other boards.
Yeah, allow them all.
Okay, so the current order from you, the way you dealt with phone for the subordinate boards was if they regularly had members of the public attending, they needed to provide a phone line. If they didn't regularly have members of the public attending, they could choose not to have a phone line. That's what your current order says, because we have a lot of advisory boards where nobody shows up. And
Yeah.
it seemed like
Okay.
Let's just
unnecessary.
do that,
Yeah,
Commissioners.
I'm in.
Yeah.
And then,
Do we need that in the form of a motion?
yeah, so yes, it would basically be, as I'm hearing you, it would be carrying forward your current order, except you're not specifying that they need to be in larger venues anymore.
So moved.
Second.
So Mark, on the 30th, does that include all the advisory boards too?
the allowance from the governor expires for all local government bodies of any
Okay,
sort
so-
unless he extends it.
So they would have to have a quorum after the 30th.
Present, as long
In
as he doesn't
person.
extend.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
unless he extends it. But then, if you vote, as I think you're going to right now, if the governor extends it, you're going to continue to allow
Right.
quorum to be achieved by telephone.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Swindle, second by Commissioner Turner. Any
Yes, sir.
further discussion?
And just to be clear, then, the motion would be to authorize you to sign an order that I'll prepare that'll be similar to what we've done before.
And then just for another clarification point, to one thing that Mark pointed out was the fact that, we've decreed we want to meet in a bigger building. We're now going to go back to the smaller chambers, and if any other advisory board or anybody, it's at their discretion. They'll work with staff to do whatever they feel.
They
is
they can do that.
Right.
Any discussion on the telephone? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
As part of this item, did you want to talk about the next meeting at all, or?
I did, but I thought maybe we'll wait for
Okay.
Commissioner Turner
Yeah.
to get back to talk about the budget workshop and the next meeting.
I thought we already did.
Well, we didn't really finalize it, so I was going to suggest
I'd like
that,
to have it on the
We
14th.
we still have other staff reports we need to go through, right?
Yeah.
We got Ms.
Yeah,
Emledge, we got
yeah.
Shane.
yeah, we can go ahead and keep
You
moving,
want
and
to
I
wait
have
on,
some,
we can wait if you want to, it doesn't matter.
no, I have some additions as
Emledge.
well.
Yes, sir.
I'm voting no on her stuff.
This staff report that you have before you regarding the Chapter 1-56, the sign regulations, last year we adopted a sweeping change to our regulations, and quite honestly, we knew that there was going to be some bugs that needed to be worked out as we started to implement them. Well, lo and behold, our first challenge here has come up with our campaign signs, and, or political signs and campaign signs, either way. But what I'd like to do is get permission to go ahead and develop amendments to the sign regulations to address, to provide a little more flexibility for the political signs. And I'm going to be working with Brenda Hoots on that, as well as pulling different counties, what they've done, and come in and what we need to do is by the 28th, on your meeting in July, we need to adopt a change to it so that we can at least provide some, provide some, or allow the candidates to have more signage, because as of today, they can only have one or two signs per parcel, private property. These are small signs that are 2x2 or, 2x3, and all other signs have to have a permit. And we're having, some issues with implementing that, and it limits folks. And here's one of the limitations is, in your own personal property, if you want to have a sign for every candidate that you support, you couldn't. You could only have two at the most.
Well,
And-
but Ms. Evans, I mean, that's because code enforcement is going to go out and potentially fine someone or find them out of compliance.
Well, that's what our ordinance says right now. That's why.
Yeah, but our ordinance says so many things that we don't, I mean.
We just passed that within the last year. Well, I thought it was a year,
Right.
or maybe it was
So-
more. We just
so-
did that.
So here's why we're going to change it, so that, because it's too limiting. I understand that. And we have a couple challenges with our signs, because, based on the federal law, that we we can't regulate content, which makes it really hard to address campaign signs, because we're talking about content here.
Ms. Emledge, where did that come from? Because I know, when was it we did this? We just passed this within the last year.
Yes, we
So
did.
where did this language, the more aggressive language, come from?
So, some or most of what we adopted was mirroring the Charlotte County's ordinance,
So what was wrong with the old way we had it?
because it referred to signs, the content of the sign. It was regulating content, and we're not allowed to do that
Well,
anymore.
there's signs all over LaBelle now. Is
Right.
that because it's city?
Right. Here's, if I may, make a recommendation.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Well, first of all, I would like you to allow staff to go forward to look for fixes and get them taken care of quickly. But the other is that we won't have code enforcement go out and implement the current code. Am I allowed to say that? All right.
We got way bigger fish to fry.
Thank you.
Right,
already said
right.
Mr. Chair.
And so-
Wasting their time
so
on an
here's-
election sign.
I mean,
Here's what we want to make sure, though, that signs are on private property, not in the right-of-way, and beyond that, we won't touch it.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I'm probably going to offend some staff members with this statement, but I don't want code enforcement to worry about campaign signs. I don't care if they're in the middle of Highway 27 and it says, vote for, I don't know. I don't know how you can touch this with a 20-foot pole and not be offensive.
Right.
I just think, I mean, tell them to ride down Hookers Point Road.
Yeah.
Tell them to deal with the trees that are cut down and stacked and are scary fire hazards to me that have been there for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Okay.
And tell them to deal with multiple RVs and multiple old vehicles in the same property. When we knock those in the head, then I want to hear about campaign signs.
Okay.
If y'all,
We'll do
feel
that.
free,
Yeah.
throw a couple of your options out there.
I'm surprised you were that polite about it. I just knew, I knew something more robust was fixing to come that way.
Right,
So
yeah.
I'm
You're proud of me right now? Is that what you're
Right
saying?
now.
Thank you.
I am
And
super proud of you.
And I will tell you that code enforcement doesn't want to be doing this either.
Okay, good.
It's, they know they have bigger fish to fry.
So
Outstanding.
why couldn't we go back the way we was doing it?
I can address that.
Yes.
Yes, so in 2015, the U.S. Supreme Court issued a decision in a case out of Arizona where some church had put up a sign, a directional sign to some event they were having, and the city said you can't do that. But some other people, like realtors, were allowed to put up directional signs to their location. And so the church said that you're violating my First Amendment rights. You're saying they can have a sign, but I can't, and it's the exact same size. It's just you're looking at my message, and you're
The church
saying you're
won.
allowed and you're not allowed. And so the Supreme Court said that in regulating signs, you have to have equal regulations regardless of the message on the sign. So you can have zoning district specific regulations, no signs allowed, or just one sign this size with these features. You can do that. But you can't say, well, in this district, that business or that group can have a sign, but that group or that business cannot. You can't do that. So you can't have a campaign sign ordinance. You can have a sign ordinance that allows anybody who fits within that size and that district to put up any message that they want. So that's why it was 2 per property or 1 per property, relatively small. If you say, okay, we want to allow, let's say 12 square foot campaign signs. Let's say you wanted to allow that. Then you also would need to allow 12 square foot signs that say,
Satan is
be
king.
kind, be
Yeah.
nice,
Yeah.
or whatever those signs are that you see around. You can't discriminate and say, well, you only campaign.
So you want to make sure that doesn't happen?
Well, we just need, they want to, the sentiment is to allow campaign signs bigger than the little ones that we're allowing without a permit right now.
And more of them.
Okay, more of them, but if you do that, be aware that
You open it up.
open it up for somebody who says, well, I don't want to advertise a candidate, I want to advertise my message, pick whatever message you want, and it could be a business.
Yes, sir.
Saying, blowout sale, well, they're allowed to put their 10 square foot blowout sale sign up, and you got to allow it.
But if it's their business and their property,
They can do it.
Well,
No.
I guess you got to decide what
I
kind
think
of.
Commissioner Turner had that nailed dead on the head earlier, it's too much government.
How
I
stringent?
should be able to put any sign I want in my yard. It's my yard. If you don't like it, don't look the other way when you go by. I mean, it's my yard. I think we're getting a little, I might be the only one, but I think we're getting a little ridiculous here. I just
Okay.
I don't live in Cape Coral for a reason.
May I? But the reality is, everything y'all are saying is what we understand. And so that is why she is wanting to have your permission to go back and try to come up with some fixes, because we know from a campaign perspective, there are certain properties all over this county that during election season, there's 10 signs.
Yeah.
Right? And so right now, the way it's written, that's a problem. And so we're trying to,
We need to fix it then.
understanding
You're
what
doing good.
Mark's saying, we're trying to fix it. We're trying to be, we're trying to have common sense of the
Yeah.
reality of what happens.
And I apologize. I, for one, try to be on top of these. And I remember voting for this change and to be it where it was. And it just,
Yes.
it just got by me. I never thought of this situation, but yeah.
Well,
it does need
neither
to be
did,
resolved.
well, I should say that we didn't think it was going to be like this.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, we do need regulations on signs, because if you want to see bad signage that was permitted, then go to Cape Coral, go to Fort
You
Myers.
can't even park on the grass over there no more.
I know, there's too many signs that are up
Can't
there.
park your boat in your yard, can't park your truck in the yard. No, I think if you're trying to fix this, it's great. I don't want to rib you too hard, but
Well-
if you're trying to fix it, I'm all for it, because I just think
I'm trying
it's
to
too
make-
much, too much regulation
I
to me
know.
is just,
I just want to make sure we don't let go of trying to make things look better, have higher quality things for the county.
yes, ma'am, and if they look too bad, we'll just get somebody to drag them off.
Well, just give me a phone
People was hauling my
number.
signs off for me before, so I really appreciate it. I didn't have to pick them up, it saved me some time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a vote on that?
There was never a motion, I don't believe.
Do you need a motion on this?
Yeah, to authorize
Can I get a
public
motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Swindle, second by Commissioner Byrd. Anyone on the phone like to address this? Any further discussion on the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
We got
Brings
the,
up Mr. Parker.
I make a motion to, this is your Everglades advisory?
Yes.
I make a motion to approve Mr. Randy Martin to be added to the Everglades
Second.
Airport Advisory Board. And then I just want to ask too, though, and I want Commissioner Swindle's opinion on this, but I want to ask Shane first. Does Mr. Hughes no longer want to serve?
He's no longer a tenant and no longer has an aircraft at.
Is that the qualifications for that spot?
No, it's not the qualifications, but
Okay.
all the members are.
I
business.
don't care.
Trying to find someone that's from the aviation side to represent.
The guys had, Mr. Swindle, Commissioner Swindle, you had a plane your whole life. You had a hangar for X number of years. That sudden wisdom isn't going to leave your brain, is it?
I don't think that's what they're getting after. I think they're looking for people to have a vested interest on with the footprint, I believe is what the point is, if I'm not
That
mistaken.
is the point.
And so I see what
There's a
you're
whole bunch of
saying.
people out there.
Yeah, right.
I like having a vested interest from people that have the history and understand.
I'm sorry, what tenant did you want to replace him with?
Well, at the time, when I was preparing my staff report, I didn't realize that Ernie Hughes was no longer a tenant or had an aircraft. So I was wanting to go through the roster of tenants at Everglades Airport and find one who would be a suitable candidate to bring before the advisory board, because we don't have anybody that represents the general aviation on the board. And I want to
Okay.
find
What was
somebody-
his record like on attendance of the meetings?
It was good there for a while. I served on it with him.
I'd say
So
about
earlier on, he
80 to
did really well.
90%, unless something
Yeah.
came up at
I
Kelly.
just think we
Tractor.
have apathy runs rampant a lot more.
Yeah, no, he did well. I've got some recommendations if you want to meet offline.
Yes.
I just want to know if Mr. Hughes doesn't want to be on it for anymore before we remove him. That's my 2 cents. So,
Well, he would be removed, his term's expiring, but I don't know. I can find out if he'd want to
Okay.
serve again.
yeah, I would like to know that. Okay. So I got a motion to approve Mr. Martin was my only action there, and then Mr. Parker will follow back up with us. on
I'll second the
Mr.
motion.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Swindle. Anyone on the phone like to address this? Any further discussion on the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Hey, I can legally, no, I shouldn't talk to Mr. Hughes about that, because he would come potentially to this board. Their opinion would be made to us in the form of a recommendation, so,
You can speak with an advisory board member about his interest in continuing to serve.
okay.
Sure.
Okay, good. All right, thank you. I want to ask. All right.
Okay, Chairman, the next item I have for you is the contract with SAI Consulting Services for construction engineering inspection services for Sonora Avenue. I emailed out
Yeah, that was a good write-up, Shane.
So basically, I want to change my recommendation from option 1B, where it says authorize the chairman or in his absence, the vice chairman to execute the contract, subject to county attorney and public works director approval, because I'm still tweaking a few items. And
Okay.
the prices actually came down to $222,228.40. I don't think it will cost that much, but that's based on a worst-case scenario if the contractor's there every day. But I think that project will go fairly fast.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the recommendation as presented for
Second
the services for Sonora Avenue from WCO into Davidson.
Thank you. We got a motion by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Swindle. Is there any further discussion on the board? Anyone on the phone like to discuss this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, Chairman, the next item I have for you is MSBU assessment rates for the trim notice. Staff's looking to keep all the MSBU rates the same due to planned projects, utility bills, ongoing maintenance. However, we're looking at increasing the East Fire MSBU, as stated during the budget workshop, by 15% across all subcategory assessments in that MSBU. We're also adding 3 new subcategories for the West Rec MSBU, which is the RV rental lots, RV fee simple lots, and hotel motel assessment. I included in the email I sent out, and also did a handout of, it was a study that was called the Assessment Methodology Report, West Hendry County Recreational Assessments, which were prepared for Hendry County and the city of LaBelle back on March 19th, 2020.
So Jennifer, the 15%, that can go down,
This would be the maximum that it could be. It would be on the trim notice.
but I
And then-
mean that the September, they could go down.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I move to accept.
I'll second the motion.
A motion by Commissioner Harris, second by Commissioner Swindle. Did you have, are you good? Any board discussion further? Yes, sir.
Just want to make a modification that the county attorney pointed out. Under option 1A, that should read West Recreation MSBU RV rental lots assessment of $50 per rental site. I mistakenly wrote lakes. Clarification.
Okay, anyone on the phone like to address this? Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Wait, can I discuss real quick?
Sure.
And so, building off the discussion that we had earlier, totally understanding that we do need some more data before we really get to be able to reach a very conclusive decision on where we need to be on the East Fire. Are we comfortable with the 15%, especially since it's a trim notice? Do we want to set it higher at 20? And then we can always wind up where we need to wind up, depending on the data. It could be 5%, 10%, or anything in between, correct?
Well, yeah, you can go down low.
That's right. So is 15 sufficient, or do we need to go higher to make sure that we're comfortable in where we need to do this for a long period of time?
I believe I heard Mr. Martin say he thought it was within a 5% difference. So was you thinking that 20% was what you was thinking, Mr. Martin?
I would like to make one other comment. Our board last night, without dissent, concurred with the recommendation of 15, but relative to the comments you made earlier in the work session, I think the more flexibility you have, the better, because it is a max. It can be whatever. It could be 0, it could be 5, it could be 10.
I can't, we had a 1% increase in population. 1% increase in population. We have asked all of the board departments to take a what percent cut?
5%.
in all
5% cut. We sit here and we chastise, no, let me just say that differently. It's inappropriate. We kind of ask in a quasi manner for the constitutionals to look at making cuts as well. We have a fire department that's operating on an agreement that's 20-plus years old, and they're asking for a 15% increase, but we don't know exactly what that increase entails. I think we need to try to work within the 15% and lower it if we can. And, the city of Clueston, I'm glad that all 5 of them voted to support a 15% increase on something that they give 33 cents on the dollar. I'd make that deal too. So I might like to also add out that LaBelle has a $750,000 reserve, and they're doing their thing. So I just need to know, a lot more details before I can look at raising taxes on constituents.
Mr. Chair,
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
my only problem that I see, you said that the agreement was 50/50, but we're 62, we doing 67% over the city?
Yes, that was the many years at a budget workshop, and every year, that's what the appropriation has held to. And to answer your question, Commissioner Swindle, I don't know what I don't know, so I'm not going to tell you I think it 100% is going to be enough or not enough, because there's no way for me to answer that question. However, it's my understanding that the fire department asked for 25%. I'm super conservative. I like to decrease taxes, not increase taxes, and so I'm not comfortable doing a 25%. Randy and I talked about their request, and like I mentioned before, without going into detail, there's no way we're going to be able to do all of their requests, but I think we're going to come up with something that everybody's going to hopefully be able to live with and be happy with in a conservative manner, and still be able to fund future needs. So I feel like a 15% this year for you to consider. Keep your options open till September. And then also, we'll move forward with someone with the MSBU like we're doing with the EMS, and really take a deeper dive into the fire assessment. And it could be potentially, it might be completely restructured, and it's not just across the board like what we're doing now. It might be more in certain categories may go up, so certain categories could go down. But overall, the funding that is required and necessary after we come up with the agreement and come up with a more sound position to move forward, and I would be remiss if I didn't say this. So one of the problems, to Commissioner Turner's, I think, concern and his comments with the agreement being so old, it's kind of open-ended. And so, and the LaBelle's the same way. So we need to address that in their agreement. So basically it says, this is what our split is. And then at the end of the audit, which is almost a year later, after the fiscal year is over, if there's an overage or underage, you'll split it proportionately. So what happens is we get a bill a year after almost a year after the fiscal year is over for an amount. And we don't have any control. And so that's part of why we're in the situation we're in. I'm not calling anybody out, it is what it is. But with the agreement, if we can address some of those concerns, then we know where we're at. We come up with a better structure, a funding structure, and we're not going to get caught to be where we are now in the future.
And I would, if I could, I would wholeheartedly agree with what Jennifer just said, but the reality of this particular fund and the adequacy of the funding that's currently coming to it through the current taxing structure, it is deficient, it's underwater, it needs to be corrected, period. And it's not meeting the needs.
And I'm hearing everything. Absolutely don't want to throw money at a situation just because they're underwater. I mean, I understand what Mr. Martin's saying. I don't want to just throw money at it to fix it at the expense of a taxpayer. But again, we're looking at a trim notice. This is not us sticking to that point. And if we agree to 15 and after the agreement's done and after the assessments have been done, and we're like, 18 really would have made them whole, is my only point. I'm good with 15. If the board and Ms. Davis and everyone thinks that if we're good with that, I'll leave it alone and we'll vote.
I remember 4 years ago, we said that if it's broke, we need to fix it. We can't keep patching things, but to have a debt for that long until we clear that debt, we're going to be in the same boat next year or the year after, because you got to first fix what's broke. And if you got a debt, we don't even know what the debt is. I'm in the same boat with both of them, because if you do an increase, you can always decrease, but we need to correct it. And if we don't fix it now, it's going to be the same thing next time. So.
And I go back to, these are men and women we're asking to go into life-threatening situations with bunker gear that's expired with, and yada, yada, yada. Y'all can put, the rest of it in there. And
That needs to be addressed.
No, it doesn't need to be addressed. it has to be addressed.
Absolutely.
We can't ask that, we can't expect that. So I just want to make sure that we're being adequate as we make this decision and not having to come back next year, and readdress it. That's my only point.
Because we looking forward to getting a new truck, but you can't get a truck if you offer the old truck. You gotta fix one of them before you move forward. So we just gotta get rid of the debt in order to move forward. So I'd like to see what the debt is, first of all, within the agreement that you all came up with, 30 years ago?
So we have a motion and a second on the floor, correct?
That's where we are.
Is there any further discussion? So we're going to leave it as stands, 15%, correct? Okay. Yeah.
I'm okay if y'all are.
Is there any discussion on the telephone? Hearing none. Any further discussion on the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Chairman, the next item I have for you is amendment to commercial lease agreement for restaurant space with Shortcakes LLC at the LaBelle Airport.
Make a motion to approve for Shortcakes LLC.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Byrd. Any further discussion on that one? Anyone on the telephone? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Chairman, my final item is bid number 2020-23, roof repairs at various county-owned buildings. I emailed this staff report out to you. We have 4 buildings that have leaks that need to be repaired. We're looking at doing a silicone coating over these buildings. I met with Alan Bowen, Facilities Maintenance Director. This was his idea. We toured some other buildings. I think it'll work fine
Mr.
versus
Chair?
installing a new
Yes,
roof.
sir.
Shane, is this going to be a contractor performing it, or is it in-house?
No, contractor, it's an actual invitation to bid. We have a
Okay.
pre-bid meeting this Wednesday.
10-4. Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the request. And I want to just ask, though, is I think it's the Odyssey, it's ASEP Trans, Hawaii Intermodal, they're like 19 different names now from where they were. Are they on that list?
It's their building.
Okay, good.
It's the 2 aircraft maintenance corporate hangars that Skydive leases.
Okay.
And it's the Harlem Civic Center.
Good deal.
Okay, we got a motion, have a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Byrd. Any further discussion on this? Anyone on the phone? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Davis.
I have a few agenda additions.
Okay?
The first item is the CARES agreement before you. There's a copy, and I ask for your permission, subject to county attorney approval. We have to electronically sign this to get the money to.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Harris. Any further discussion on that?
Mr. Chair, that's all being ran via the state emergency management, Henry County emergency management, but I assume you're kind of championing that?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
all right.
Second
Discussion on the phone? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Second item I have is before you, there's an MOU with the school district and the county for DEM for FEMA reimbursement.
Make a motion to approve as well.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Harris. Any further discussion on that? Anyone on the phone?
Just one clarification on that. I prepared it, and so obviously I'm good with it, but I think it's just been provided to the school district like yesterday afternoon or
So subject
today
to
or
them,
something.
is that what
So
you're saying?
they may have some revisions, subject to them, me
Okay.
agreeing to those revisions, then you're authorizing that agreement to be signed.
Okay. Any further discussion on the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The next item I have is permission to apply on behalf of Central County Water Control District for some
So moved.
CDBG MIT grants.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Harris, second by Commissioner Turner.
And City Hall Bell.
Any further discussion on this one?
I thought Ron said.
Hold
he
on,
would-
hold on a second.
Sorry. I thought
Montour,
Ron-
LaBelle.
I thought Ron said.
Well, his staff reports to City of LaBelle. I don't know if
Okay.
he's still,
If we could include the city of
Yes,
LaBelle
absolutely.
with that, and then if they apply on their own, then it will be,
Okay. That's in part of the motion.
Absolutely all in favor. However, I want to speak from a little bit of experience from a CDBG-DR grant recipient. Better make sure you increase bandwidth somewhere along the way. because I'm having to onboard humans to keep up with regulations, with reporting, with data, with you name it. So with
So
their,
the follow-up's heavy, Commissioner Swindle.
the carry out and follow-up is heavy with their shekels come their shackles type deal. It's bad. I mean, it's a lot.
Never heard that.
Yeah, Tidal Basin is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, we really need to continue to use, their expertise, and if it hadn't been for them up until this point, I'd have probably had to walk away from this grant a long time ago. And to their credit, they're the ones who up front said, you better go ahead and get some more help. And thank God we did. So make sure y'all think about that, because there's an enormous amount of data, record keeping, reporting that's going to have to go on for a while.
You got that, Jim?
One,
Well, we got the vote, motion in a second, we did.
Yeah.
But we
That was just
didn't,
discussion.
that's discussion. Is there anyone on the phone like to add anything to this? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
one last item is your consideration if you wanted to do a budget workshop on the 14th and then keep our regular meeting for the 28th, or what you wanted to do with the July meetings.
I want to do it on the 28th, before the meeting.
14th is a better day.
It is for you.
Yeah, that's what matters.
You
You're
can be
retired.
there.
What do you care? You
You
just
can be
aggravate
there.
everybody every day.
You can be there on the 28th.
I like to do it on the 14th too. I go back to work.
Am I understanding that we can move it to the 14th, and we would not,
Just the budget workshop.
we can't move the meeting to the 14th?
Yeah, because somebody else not
That
collaborating.
mess Margaret
All right, then I just say let's do it all on the 28th.
Amen. Mitch agrees with it. You agree with it, Mitch?
I may
We
have
got a
to vote in.
motion?
I may have to be calling on that one.
Do we need a motion on this, Mark?
Commissioner Swindle, what it was.
No, I mean, the regular meeting's already set for the 28th. You're just adding the workshop at 3:30, and that's just board sentiment is schedule it and hold it, and we'll do that.
We'll come
That's-
pick you up, Swindle.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Can we go 3? Can we go 3 instead of 3:30? I know it's only an extra 30 minutes, but
That's okay.
if we're good, if we get through it, which I don't think we will, we'll have the ability to take a little, I can go get a smoothie from,
Did you ever get that, did you ever get the dinner you want, or?
he ain't giving me dinner.
We ain't never. Shave.
So we're going to,
He said, until I shave and get a haircut, he's not going to be seen in public with
He
me,
ain't nothing.
COVID or not.
I'm surprised I didn't say socks.
He said
Socks
it's
in there.
absurd.
And we're socks.
okay, so who all wants the 14th?
No, do it on the 28th. It's all right.
28th it is then. That's
At
good.
3.
4 to 1.
At 3.
At 3? 3 o'clock?
Please, sir. And it'll be in LaBelle, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
In the board
No, it ought to
chambers.
do them in Clewiston just for that.
We're gonna pick you up.
So we have old business. Does anyone have anything on that? Everybody had the printout. Does anybody have anything on that?
I
Before we-
didn't have anything I wanted to chat about at all.
Okay, business by district.
I
Mr.
appreciate the
Swindle?
list being in there, though. Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Yes, number one, I think Miss Ayala is not here, right? So I just inadvertently got her on the phone yesterday trying to get somewhere else, and we wound up talking about the census. And again, Henry, they got that dashboard dealio, and Henry's like way low. And so as we have meetings, as you deal with constituents or you have meetings of any kind, it was wonderful that she pointed out that, please encourage your folks to do that. And she can get posters, advertisements, bling, that say census with the information on it. And, so I'm going to try to do that myself, and I encourage my constituents on the board or my colleagues on the board to do the same. I think, and I think a lot of it is, like some of us have stated here tonight, we don't like government, but, when you do census, they're afraid that that's giving their information away. We have to bring the understanding, if possible. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, we had and I won't take away too much, I'll try not to. We attended FAC conference last week virtually, and we had a wonderful virtual conference, and a lot of good things happened. Henry was represented very well, actually. Commissioner Byrd is going to be on some state stuff. I'll let her tell you about that, and Commissioner Turner. So I just wanted to say it's not the normal way that we have been doing business, but at least we got the business done. Henry is still very well represented, and I was proud of some of my colleagues on the board on some of the things that happened. So I'll let them tell you the rest.
Ms. Byrd?
Okay, let's talk a little bit about census. On Saturday, the county did provide some signs and some fans, and We did register some people out of the community on Saturday. There's a lot of people that had not registered. We registered them on our phones right then, but there's more people that have not registered than have registered. Some of them is still, just don't have the understanding of how important the census is. So I'll get with Jennifer. I think if we just made certain places available where people can walk in, because I have a few volunteers that'll help a little bit, but some of them just don't understand. It's like, what census? You know, I mean, I know it's only every 10 years, but it's important for us. Also, I want to acknowledge that Ms. Janice Lee is on the board for the housing. She taken her father's place, Mr. Humphrey. So to her, I say thank you for stepping up to making that happen. So, Ms. Janice Lee. Secondly, thank you for allowing me to represent Henry County on the state level. Also, I was already a co-board. I was on, what you call it, second board, co-board?
Sounds good.
Second board for rural area, but I appreciate it. Looking forward to, stepping up the plate just a little bit there, learning, and it's a lot more to learn, but thank you.
Mr. Harris?
District 2 is good.
Mr. Turner?
I want to thank Ms. Byrd for stepping up to serve and congratulate you as well. Obviously, you're going to step up into that role in FAC, and I know you're going to do a great job. We do need to push the census. I don't know if federal or state dollars pay for our ability to get space on the Clewiston Chamber and on any of the billboards or anything like that, but I think we need to look into that. Is it possible, Jennifer, that you all could show where if we increase it by 5%, what that looks into from a dollars and cents standpoint, So in 2010, we were one of the lowest counts in the state. And I will tell y'all, I tried to work diligently with the people from the census, and that's why I'm a little bit more bald, because, they were coming from Collier County, I think was where the person was prescribed to us. And, trying to get them to understand where C&B Farms was, or where Twin Lakes, or you name it out there, they were, no, that's not on our map. Yeah, it's not on your map. I understand you don't have a map. It's not on anybody's map, It's 15 miles from existence. And so we need to try to work through that. Obviously, with our high Hispanic population and the fear of retribution from the federal government, if that's a ghost population, how we beat that misinformation down is very difficult. So we've got to delve into that a little bit, but the census is huge. And then other than that, I appreciate you having the old business item in there, and look forward to starting checking some of those things off. So that's it. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Get with Pastor Chuck on this side. Some of y'all, they do the food bank on this side every Monday. I know they are. We're doing the afternoon, they're doing the morning, but actually, Ms. Ayala, she's had representatives at every one of our food banks. She has people there on site. They're actually going to each vehicle. So if we could talk to Pastor Chuck over at New Harvest on the Clewiston side and get them the same situation over here, that would help.
I did give some of the fans out to each church.
Did you?
But I'll take them the signs that the county gave me so that he can put them outside when they're doing it, so I can do that.
Well, let her know, because she actually has, there's two young ladies that come to the food bank, and they work the food bank. They walk down every vehicle, they talk to every individual, and they've signed some up there. And we've actually did the same thing with some of our mental health providers. Some of us, was having trouble with that in the beginning, being telehealth, and we've been doing the same thing with that, and that's really helped a lot of folks in that area as well. So, Pastor Chuck, I know he'll provide whatever you need to get it going. So,
Yeah,
if some of y'all can reach out.
We were promoting it in the churches. I took all the literature to most all the churches.
We're talking about the food bank?
No, sir, the census.
Oh.
And then they still advertise it on the screen every Sunday.
Can we make sure, Emily, are you in charge of that for us, or I don't know who is, but
Patricia.
Yeah, that's right. She sent me a really good email. We need to make sure she reaches out to Pastor Landy as well.
We've got all of them.
Villanueva, and then Pastor Escorcia, Benjamin Escorcia. So.
We've hit them all.
Yeah, they have food banks as well, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I got her hooked up with them yesterday, I think.
Okay, good.
Very good.
So, are you finished with your time?
I am, sir. I'm done.
So, can we talk about the food bank just for a minute? Because I know the COVID caused a lot of folks to have to throttle back on what their income was, and then
Yeah.
our food banks, like the rest of the nation, recognized an enormous influx. Is that continuing? Has it tapered off at all?
No.
Wow.
It
Not
won't.
yet. It's every Monday right now, we're doing a project, like I said, with Pastor Chuck. We give out 5 pallets of food. He gives out 5 pallets of food every Monday. Every Thursday, we're still going through anywhere from 3,500 to 4,500 pounds of food. So Harry Chapin did get hit pretty hard, but they've recovered. So still the food banks, the seniors, this past Monday, the seniors, again, 200, 250.
Wow.
So it's.
How much above your normal is it?
Well, the thing above normal for us is we're having out-of-county. We're having,
Really?
we're getting a lot of out-of-county.
A lot
come
of
in.
people that's not getting it.
They can't get to Lee County, and some places in Lee County, they're not providing it, so they're coming.
Out-of-county being
Alva,
Oh,
Lehigh.
Lee and Glades?
Yeah, so we're seeing an influx of that, and
I
I
know
imagine
some folks-
Pastor Chuck's seeing it as well, so.
I think that in Monterey, at the Serving with Love, they're doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
And they did a big social media burst to let everyone know. They had people coming from like Stewart.
Oh, yeah, they've come from all over. U.S. Sugar really did an amazing job this year, I got to say that.
Yeah,
They brought us several truckloads of sweet corn and other
Yeah.
things, and it was amazing. They did they really helped out a lot
Yeah,
too,
they
so.
did.
But it hadn't tapered off, no, sir. If anything, it's rising,
Really?
so,
Well, that's why we have, people have to go back to work. We have to get people back to work so they can buy groceries.
right. So that's it then. Thank you, everyone. Meeting adjourned.
You need to go to AIM and get your shots. I'm serious.
Bazillus, can I have the pin? Can I have the pin?
What are you in such a hurry about?